Good evening, y'all. This is Bubba Fett again. I'm here in my kitchen, about to make some loquat jelly. For those that don't know what a loquat is, it's basically a Japanese plum. Down here in Florida and throughout the South, they're called loquats. You can find loquat trees in most every state, but out of all the South, loquats are most prevalent in Florida because of the climate, rainfall, and everything. I've gone ahead and shucked all these loquats right here. They have a seed in there about the size of a cherry seed. Some of them have one, some of them have up to three, so you gotta be careful. I've gone ahead and chopped off the butts of the loquats because the butts have these like hard little nips on the bottom, and they don't taste too good when you make it into a jelly. So I've gone ahead and just pitted them, and they look like an olive when you're done with them. About to start preparing my canning supplies and make some jelly. Just went to Winn-Dixie and got another case of mason jars, and I just want to talk real quick about the art of going out and foraging for berries. I've spoke with a lot of people that swear that hunting and fishing that's like a necessity to do if you're a prepper or trying to live off the grid, but one thing they always leave out is foraging. I think foraging is one of the most important skills you can get because all these loquats are free. They're from a wild loquat tree, and if you know where to find them, you can find them throughout Florida. You can also find wild mulberry trees, wild mayhog bushes, even wild grapes. To me, that's just as much of a hunt as going out and trying to hunt a turkey or a deer. You don't get to use a gun or dress up in camo. Well, hell yeah, I guess you can dress up in camo if you really want to, but it's more or less going out there and just trying to find some food that's going to last. This jelly will last about 1 to 2 years, maybe longer. If I do preserves, they'll last a lot longer than the jelly. So what's in this bowl right here is going to become loquat jelly, and these loquats right here that haven't been shucked yet, they're going to become loquat preserves, which are going to be for the long haul. I've already made 4 mason jars worth of jelly. I'm going to go ahead and make 5 more, and then the rest are going to be loquat preserves. The recipe I'm following is from the University of Texas A&M, their agriculture department. It's basically 5 cups of puree loquats, which I'm going to put these loquats in this food processor right here. 1 box fruit pectin. Now I went out and got the low sugar formula from the Winn-Dixie. Basically, if you can see that good and clear, this one container makes up 22 half pints of jelly or jam or preserves. That's 11 full pints. And it's also low sugar. So the recipe I'm doing calls for 5 cups of puree loquats, 1 box of fruit pectin, which is just basically not this whole container, it's just 1 serving out of here, and then 7 cups of sugar. Sugar is important when you're doing preserves or jellies. But with this low sugar formula from Mason, Ball Mason, I don't have to use 7 cups of sugar. I can cut that down based on the recipe under this label right here. I got to peel up. I'll go ahead and tell you exactly how much sugar I added in once the jelly is in the frying, once it's being skilleted. But put that right there. Also, my recipe normally calls for lemon juice, but if you can tell in here, there's a couple green loquats, and these are really bitter. And the tree that they came off of, this is actually half done, so I don't really need to even add any lemon juice into this to keep the sweet sour taste of this at all. So I mixed in a couple green ones, but the majority of these are like an orangish yellow, and you want to look for an orange yellow because that means that they're the sweetest. But if they have a tinge of green, or if they're just like a dull yellow, they're going to be bitter. The more orange they are, the sweeter. But go ahead and turn this off, and I'm going to puree these bad boys, and I'm going to start preparing my mason jars. I got to sterilize those, and I got to heat these lids up so they adhere right when you do the water boil. I'm not going to do a pressure canning. I'm going to do a water sealing, and we'll cover that later in the video. I'll be right back. Alright, I've gone ahead and pureed the pitted loquats I have. I'm going to put them in this saucepan here in a minute. And I'm sterilizing these jars, and I'm warming up these caps back here. You just have to make sure, let me check it's not warm enough. But you just have to make sure that they don't stick together, and just not boil this. Just get them a little warm, because this wax seal in here just needs to get loose and warm, so later on in the process when you can, you actually put them on, you screw your lids on real tight and you put them in the water bath. It gets a good seal going on. Otherwise, if you're taking these things cold, there's a chance they're not going to seal right. So it's always a good idea to keep these things just warm, not boiling, just warm. And I always finger test the water, just like a hot bath. That's all the water needs to be. I'm not going to stick my hand in that because I can see air bubbles already forming. And I'm going to go ahead and put this in here, add a little bit of water, and then you basically take it to a rolling boil, and at the last minute you add the sugar. But for now, just this and the pectin is going to go in here. And then for the last minute you add the sugar. The 7 cups is what the recipe calls for. Again, I'm going to do some radcom math here and try to figure out, with this low sugar pectin I have, how much sugar actually goes into this. And I'll let you know that here in a second. What I'm doing right now is I'm taking the mason jars out of the boiling water carefully with a pair of tongs. Now generally you would use a pair of jar risers or jar clamps or whatever the heck they're called. But again, we're doing this on a thrifty side, so we're using just a pair of salad tongs. Just make sure they're good and metal. Make sure you got a good grip around the top of the jar when you're doing it. I just basically stack one on the other and just dump the water out, and then gently put them over here so I can hand dry them and get them ready for this good old Loquat jelly that's all ready to go. Now this last one's going to be tricky because there's nothing to lean it on. So just make sure, if you use a pair of salad tongs, that the water doesn't go down these grooves on the inside and burn your hand. So you got to exercise caution with this step of the game. But once you get a good grip, you just drain it, and once the water's drained, these things don't weigh anything. You delicately stack them, you dry them. I've gone ahead and added the sugar to this. It's gotten to a rolling boil. Once I dry these bad boys, I'm going to go ahead and put that jelly into these jars. Then I'm going to put one of these rings, which are in hot water. They've been cleaned and now they're just sitting in here getting hot. And one of these caps on top. Now you got to leave, I believe it's a 1/2 inch room at the top underneath the lid inside the jar. And they say measure it with a tape measure because it has to be precise to make sure that the canning process takes shape. I'll back up here. I'm going to grab my funnel. Now this is basically what you use. This is a Mason, Ball Mason brand, BPA free funnel. And I'm going to go ahead and show you how this sucker works. Flip one of these guys around. I'm going to go ahead and dry this off with my other hand behind the camera. I don't think I have to show you guys how to dry a mason jar. Alright, that guy's dry. Basically put the funnel on the top. You want to get a ladle. Everything I have is stainless steel that I use. None of this plastic crap from Japan. This has already gotten to the jelly stage. It's pretty thick. It's nice and good. I've measured the temperature, and it is at the jelly stage. Basically, you want to take this stuff out. This good old Loquat jelly. You just want to transplant it, and you just want to dump it in the jar. Get this stuff out, and you put it in the jar. And you get this stuff out, and again, make sure it's not dripping everywhere, and you put it in the jar. Alright, just get a little bit of it out. Try to get it filled up as much as you can. Leave that gap at the top that it needs. It needs a 1/2 inch gap at the top. I'm going to eyeball that and say that's a 1/2 inch gap at the top. Apologize for the background noise. My son's watching Little Nemo. And that water's still hot enough that when I put these jars back in, I can go ahead and start sealing these bad boys with a water boil technique. one thing you need to do is make sure that the jelly inside here is down, and it's all down. None of it's around the rim. You don't want anything around this rim at all. Not water, not jelly, not nothing. But I'm going to go ahead and put the lids on these guys. Fill up the rest of these mason jars with this jelly. And then I'll bring you guys back for a final step, which is putting this in a water bath. So just give me a second. Alright, welcome back. I've gone ahead and switched pots to some Polydine stock pots, twice as tall as the other one. It holds a lot more water. When you're canning via a water bath method, it's very important that you have at least 1 to 2 inches of water above the lid of the jar. And I don't know if you can see it from here through the camera, but I've measured it. There's 2 inches of water above these jars. And you want to get to a good roll and boil for 5 minutes, continuous boil for 5 minutes, with 2 inches of water above it. That's the information I got from the University of Texas A&M and the University of Georgia's canning websites on how to can loquats. So 5 minutes at a roll and boil. I measured what's in the cans, and it's exactly a ½ inch. Basically what's going to happen at this step is the lids of the cans are going to squeeze down after the 5 minutes of boiling. You want to take them out with the tongs carefully. You want to put them upside down on a dry, level cloth. After they're on a cloth, you want to leave them out all night, and in the morning you can put them in your cupboard or wherever you're going to put them. But you want to leave them upside down. Don't touch them, don't disturb them. It's kind of like a cake. If you mess with them too much, that lid, the pressure inside the cans is going to be disrupted, and the tops are going to pop. And it's going to ruin it. You're going to have to go all the way back through and boil all over again and use another lid. But I could only, as it turned out, I could only fill up 4 jars. I was hoping to fill up 5 or 6, but I could only fill up 4. And this wasn't precise. The leftover jelly that couldn't fill up a jar, I just put it into a mason jar that was used, and my wife and my son can use it for breakfast. Anyway, this has been Bubba Fett showing you how to make a loquat jelly and just the basics on canning. Just remember that the recipe for every canning, whether you're doing blueberries or strawberries or potatoes or whatever, the recipes are all different. What works for loquats doesn't work for anything. That doesn't work for the other fruit necessarily. So you just want to go online. Normally, many southern universities, they have recipes for various different fruit and vegetables that's native to their region. They basically show you how to can it the best way, and I'd basically just go by what the universities say, because those are tried and tested ways. Or if you have an old family recipe for canning. Canning's something that's coming back around with the new prepping craze, and it never hurts to have a lot of extra food on hand, especially free food that you forage out in the wild. Again, a lot of people go out there and hunt and they fill the freezer full of meat. Why not go out there and forage and get a bunch of wild berries that's edible, and fill your cupboard full of berries and have a freezer full of meat? Why not both? Anyway, this is Bubba Fett. God bless, and have a good night.